Hi everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well. So back today with another collection update. Before I start the video, I'm just going to say you may have noticed that it looks very dark in here. That's because it's rainy season at the moment, so the rain's been pouring down all day and the skies are darker. I do understand I could turn the light on, but I tried that and everything looks like shit, just like way too bright and so on. So I can still see there's some color here, but trust me, if you think this looks a little bit dark, it looks much worse with the light on, so I'm just going to film it like this. Hopefully you can see it. Yep, so as I mentioned a couple of videos ago, I was recently in Australia and I've shown my collection update from Tasmania. I also visited Sydney, so whenever I'm in Sydney, there are certain music shops I always visit, and just to check out, but because that's a nostalgic thing for me to do, and often you can find some good places with some good releases. I went to DEICIDE Records, their metal section was shit, very limited selection, and they did have a couple of other CDs from other genres that I was remotely interested in. I went, you know what, I just think I'll leave it. But one record shop that I did go to was Utopia Records, which is the famous heavy metal shop in Sydney. So what we're going to do today, this is an edition of what's in my bag. So you can see here, this is the Utopia Records bag. Shit, I hope I don't drop this, otherwise the CDs will crack. But yeah, it says the home of metal since 1978. So this is a shop in Sydney that's been around since 1978. I first went there in 1993 when I was a teenager, like 14 years old, and couldn't buy anything at the time because I didn't have a job yet, but it was always a cool place. But yeah, so that's the design, the home of metal since 1978. On the back here, keeping music evil since 1978, very nice. So yeah, I picked up 5 albums at this particular shop. So just to give you an idea, yes, Utopia is the home of metal, so they stock music from all metal genres, and there's a lot available, like CDs, vinyls, t-shirts, accessories, like magnets, badges, bags, all that kind of stuff. And they have a pretty good selection. I will say it's not extremely underground, so if you're one of those people into Kvult black metal or something like that, you might not find exactly what you're looking for, but they do have a decent selection, especially of the bigger bands. So yeah, these are 5 albums I picked up at Utopia Records, so without further ado, let's get into it. So first one coming from the bag, I finally picked up DEICIDE's new album, which is Banished by Sin. Yeah, so yeah, again, sorry about the light, but hopefully you can see that. Now, first of all, the first thing I'm going to mention about this is that I remember there was a massive controversy when this album was released because everyone bitched about the fact that it was AI artwork. So I'll just put my 2 cents in. What do I think about that? I don't give a fuck, really. I mean, it's cool when an album has a good artwork. This one's okay. I don't care if it's generated by AI or not, because ultimately the most important thing about an album is the music. And the music on this album is excellent. So when the album first came out, I heard a lot of praise for it, and I think I test listened a few tracks and I really enjoyed them. And yeah, no great surprises. This is not reinventing the wheel. It's DEICIDE playing that standard metal style. But my younger brother and I were talking about this the other day, and he was saying he's not really into death metal, but he said DEICIDE is probably his favorite death metal band. And I said, I certainly see why. Can you tell me why? And he said, oh, it's just like the guitar tone, the drum sound, the groove. And yeah, that's exactly right. Like DEICIDE, yes, while it's extremely brutal and blasting and heavy, there is also a lot of groove to the music, and it's very catchy, and the drumming, is a major element of the music, the way it's blasting forth, and Steve Ashheim writes all the music, the drummer. So yeah. And I've never really heard a DEICIDE album that I dislike. I am missing a few from the modern discography, like I don't have In the Minds of Evil and a couple of others, but yeah, glad I picked up this one. So yeah, as I said, it's pretty much standard DEICIDE, except what I do like about this band, and the fact that they've shown on this release, is while they stick to their formula, they're not afraid of subtly trying new things. And you see how their sound evolved. For example, like with the Stench of Redemption, which came out 20 years ago now, you could see how that evolved with the guitar solos. They became sort of more epic and melodic. So yeah, this band subtly evolves while maintaining the same sound. But yeah, so yeah, this is exactly what you would expect of DEICIDE, blasting brutality, laden with some groove, and also like a lot of crazy drum fills, awesome melodic guitar solos, brutal vocals. Yes, I'm assuming you know what DEICIDE sounds like. And imagine, theoretically, you've been living under a rock and you've never heard what DEICIDE sounds like, this would be a decent album to start with. It's not a classic one, but like it's a reliable one, so it's not one that's going to put you off or anything. But yeah, I really like the whole album. I've listened to it a few times now. 12 tracks on this one, so it's quite long for DEICIDE. Yeah, so while I said there are no surprises, just the standout tracks for me at the moment, I would have to say, would be track 4, entitled Faithless. What I like about that is that contains some really atmospheric guitar melodies and solos at the beginning, sort of doing that epic style, which has evolved in the last few years, which is really interesting. I also really like track 6, entitled Woke from God. That is epic melodic. That has some epic melodic and rocking guitar solos, especially at the beginning, and some awesome leads throughout. So like, as is always the case with DEICIDE, the lead guitar work is excellent. Also track 8, Failures of Your Dying God. This has some good grooves on it and also some epic solos and melodies. So now you're seeing the pattern. The lead guitar work is such an important aspect of DEICIDE, and it really shines through on this album. Also, I love the title track, Banished by Sin. That's very original. It's got some very original and different sounding melodies and a good main riff. And on that note, I'm not sure if it's Banished by Sin or another track, but the first time I listened to this album, I remember there was one song, the riffage even sounded a bit black metal in one of the songs, which is interesting because, you know, like, while DEICIDE is a satanic band, like, stylistically they've been more sort of death metal, definitely death metal, but, you know, sort of dabbling in some black metal on this album, which is interesting. And I also really like track 12, called The Light Defeated, the last track. That's got some really catchy, groovy, chugging riffs, which is also a signature element of DEICIDE. So you can see what I mean here. It's not reinventing the wheel, but at the same time, the sound is gradually evolving. So if you like DEICIDE for their reliable elements, you will love this. And if you also like some sort of creative progression, you will also love this. So yeah, good, solid stuff. I've heard it about 3 times now, and I'm glad I picked this one up. So, yep, there's the cover art, which is cool despite being generated by AI. By the way, everyone was complaining about that, but look at albums like, you know, Legion. That looks like AI generated with sort of cheap computer graphics. It doesn't matter, you know, how it's generated. Does it look cool? Like the Legion one looks cool because it's iconic. So here's the booklet with all of the lyrics, which I'm yet to spend time with, but, you know, they're going in accordance with the traditional theme, you know, the satanic themes and anti-Christian themes. Picture of the band, and so this current lineup, it's got Glenn Benton on bass and vocals, Steve Ashine on drums, of course, and then the 2 new guitarists. Sorry guys, I don't have a quick reference in the dark to your names here, but I'll just say this, their lead guitar work and rhythm guitar work is excellent, and it's kind of cool actually because, you know, with DEICIDE started with the Hoffman brothers on guitar, and that was sort of part of the classic lineup, and then they had a sort of star-studded supergroup with guitarists famous from other bands like Jack Owen from Cannibal Corpse and Ralph Santola from Obituary and a whole loads of others. Ralph and Jack were a brilliant guitar duo as well, but so is this pair of guys. Like the guitar solos in this are just brilliant, so they always choose fantastic players. Yep, so more lyrics, nice thick glossy booklet. Yep, and can I actually work it out? Taylor Nordberg on guitar and Kevin Quirion. Sorry, I can't read this in the dark. Maybe I should have switched the light on, but anyway, excellent lead guitar work. Yeah, brilliant album. So, I've said enough about this. There's the disc, but yeah, great new album from DEICIDE, Banished by Sin. Okay, now what's coming next in the bag? Ooh, okay. Very interesting album, this one. I picked up the new Enthroned. This is Enthroned with Ash Spawn. Is that the name? Yeah. So, if you're not familiar, Enthroned are a Belgian black metal band, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that they're one of my favorite black metal bands of all time. They're interesting because they started out in the 90s as a band that paid a lot of tribute to Marduk, sort of crossed with German 80s heavy metal, so it was a very interesting sound. But then the original bass player and vocalist Sabathan left the band. Guitarist Norna Guest took over as band leader on vocals, and then the band's sound changed slightly it was in this more sort of like, how to describe it, like ritualistic, complex, satanic black metal, like very ritualistic and focused on the spiritual elements of Satanism, which they focused on. Like Norna Guest said, in the beginning, their satanic imagery was kind of gimmicky, but now they're much more serious about the philosophy, and that's certainly reflected in the lyrics and music. So yeah, the music evolved in a different way, but it's very interesting. The most recent album before this one was called Cold Black Suns, and if you've seen my Enthroned ranking, you know I rate that one. That was very interesting because that had a lot of experimental and psychedelic and ritualistic elements. And so, how about this one? Well, the band was hyping this up as fantastic, you know, when they released the new single and everything. So that must mean it's really great, right? Yes, it is. But what I will just say this about this particular album, it's taking me a while to get my head around because the music is very complex. So I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but it's not one of those albums that instantly grabs you and you say, oh wow, this is awesome, it's catchy, I love it. It's very layered with complex elements, so you have to listen very carefully. Like, I've listened to this album 3 times now, and it's growing on me, but it just doesn't hook you in immediately. So I would recommend, if you get a chance to listen to this, it would be good to listen to it on headphones and preferably at a high volume, because there's just a lot going on with this music. So it is very fast and blasting, you know, as you would expect of black metal. So what's different about this album compared to Cold Black Suns? It's much less experimental. So with this one, it's more sort of spew forth blasphemy, blasting all the time, which is good, except it just means a lot of the songs have the same level of intensity, which means, especially on the first listen, it's hard to discern and distinguish between the tracks. That's what I found anyway. But as I said, with each repeated listen, it's getting better. But this is not going to be the type of album which will grab you straight away. Like, it's very fast and blasting with the screamy vocals. Norna Guest has a distinct vocal style, which is a bit shouty. Actually, just to give you some remote idea, his vocal style, at least on this album, Norna Guest's, it sounds a bit like Mortis from Marduk. And actually, even with the riffage and the drumming, I would say this reminds me a lot of modern Marduk. So it's interesting that Enthroned in the early days emulated Marduk as they were at that time, and now the current incarnation is sort of emulating modern Marduk, which is interesting. So, and also I hear aspects of modern Mayhem in here in terms of the riffs, the riffing style, and the guitar tone. So if you like modern Mayhem and modern Marduk, this would definitely be worth your while checking out. But like I said, I've got to spend a lot more time with it. Like, at first, to be honest, I was disappointed with this. I thought every song is just mindless blasting and it sounds the same. But when you actually sit down and focus and listen to it properly, there are a lot of standout moments and catchy and interesting moments in each song, but you really just have to pay attention because it's complicated music. So, like I said, it's hard for me to mention favorite tracks at the moment because I'm still working my way through it. But it's a very interesting and complex listen. Like, I was sort of saying to myself jokingly, oh, maybe this album would be suitable for listening to under the influence of mind-altering substances like psychedelics, and I was going, ooh, maybe not, because it would be way too intense with the blasting. But it's sort of that music with that level of complexity. There's just a lot to digest with this. But having said that, there are some songs on this which are starting to stand out for me. Like, I really like track 2 entitled Basilisk Triumphator, and also the title track Ash Spawn is really good. That's track number 4. But yeah, all of the tracks are good. It's just that there's a lot to take in, so it's going to take a few more listens. But if you're one of those people who likes sort of interesting black metal with dissonant riffs, which are sort of complex and don't grab you immediately, and you also like modern Mayhem and modern Marduk, definitely check this out. So I've shown this about 50 zillion times, but look at that. The intricacy in this artwork is really cool. It's sort of a bit similar thematically and color-wise to Marduk's Memento Mori, which is a fantastic album as well. And I'll say this, there's the disc, and and the word becomes flesh. That's what it says there. Yeah, now what I mentioned was Enthroned have become very serious with their satanic philosophy. So you can tell when you just look at this intricate, ornate booklet how much thought and effort has been put into the lyrics, which are all based around a satanic theme and philosophy. Like, look at all this, all the narratives and the diagrams, the sigils, and the lyrics, all of which were written by Nornegest. Yeah, and it's got this, the book is sort of like this glossy, thin paper, so you probably can't tell that by looking at this video. But yeah, a lot of cool artwork and imagery in this. So this is an album, I think, in order to properly understand it in its entirety, you need to read along with the lyrics and understand the concept, because a lot of thought has been put into it, I would say. Yep, so really cool stuff. And just showing you here a picture of the band. So 3-piece on this album, which is incredible with the amount of noise they make. So you have Nornegest on lead vocals, choirs, and synthesizers. So interestingly, yeah, Nornegest is first and foremost a guitarist, but I think as he became the front man of Enthroned, he wanted to concentrate on the vocals. Then you have T Chaos doing all guitars and bass and some backing vocals, and then Mentor doing drums and percussion. So yeah, like I said, incredible that 3 people are making all of this noise. But yeah, really good stuff. It's just hard for me to name favorite tracks at the moment because, as I said, I'm still getting my head around this album. But it's a challenging listen, and I like that. So I can see the, God damn it, I'll mess with that later. I can see the potential this album has to grow on me, but it's going to take a few more listens, and I have to really focus on it. But if that sounds up your alley, definitely check it out. That's Enthroned with Ashbourne. Glad I picked it up. Like, it's funny, when I first listened to it, I went, oh, I shouldn't have got this, but sometimes it takes a while for albums to grow on you, and sometimes they can be the most interesting. All right. So speaking of modern mayhem, I'm probably the last person in the world to pick this up, but yes, I finally got this and I'm really happy about it. This is Mayhem with Daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N. I know some people say it's Demon, but if it was Demon, wouldn't it be D-E-M-O-N? Some people say Damon. Daemon, yeah. But this is the album which Mayhem released. Fuck, that looks like shit in this light. It's a really cool artwork normally. But, you know, with this cloaked skull figure holding a sword. But yeah, I've been wanting to pick this album up for ages, and I finally did, so really glad to have done that. And I'm certainly not disappointed. I was always keen to pick up modern Mayhem, like after post-Blasphemer Maniac era, which I don't own any of, actually. Like, I think the most recent one I own on CD is Order Ad Chaos, and as you may have heard me say, I don't like that album at all. It's way too experimental and boring for me. But this one, however, sorry, just going to enter my notes here. Yeah, this is a very consistent album. I really like it. Like, it's got that classic Mayhem guitar tone, that piercing sort of haunting Norwegian sound, you know, which has carried through since the early days. And there are a lot of fast blasting riffs on this, but in addition to that, there's also a lot of tempo variety. So once again, they don't just do fast songs or slow songs, but they often change up the tempo in the middle of the song. So there are a lot of sort of doom-laden, groovy, slow bits in the songs on this, in addition to mid-paced sections. And it's just fantastic. Like, it's sort of like, imagine Grand Declaration of War, but without the experimental elements. Even though I love Grand Declaration of War, this one's more like a traditional, straightforward Mayhem black metal album. So, you know what? This could be, at the moment, coming in at my third favorite. Like, obviously my favorite is De Mysteriis Dom Satanas. My second favorite, Grand Declaration of War. This is currently coming in at third place, but I think it could even, it has the potential to come in at number 2, even beating Grand Declaration of War, although that's hard at this stage for me because I have such a sentimental attachment to that album, knowing it so well. But yeah, this is really good stuff. So yeah, like I said, that classic Norwegian Mayhem-esque guitar tone on this. And in addition to that, Attila's vocals, yes, he does do that dark operatic style, which he often showed on De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, but also he does the traditional sort of raspy, screamy black metal style. And that's great because for me, while I like that bellowing, dark operatic style, it sort of gets on my nerves after a while if it's all the time. But he shows that Attila is an equally good raspy black metal vocalist, as he did with his bands like Tormentor and other bands. Yeah, but really good stuff. And the other thing about this is it's not just blasting black metal. Like I said, there's some tempo variety, quite a lot, and actually they do focus on a lot of slower parts, and trust me, they are good. So let's go into, you know what? I bleeding well hate this. Like I'm not going to try and read these titles out. I'm just going to go by track numbers if you don't mind. But yeah, just name some interesting elements on these albums. Like tracks 2 and 3, they have a slow groovy plot and very audible bass lines, and that's a very predominant feature on this album. You hear Necro Butcher's bass, it's very well produced, and since he's sort of band leader, band co-founder, he plays a major role in the band these days, and it's just good to hear his bass being well produced. Like you may have heard me say before, I think the bass is such an underrated instrument. It's the bottom end of the music. It's what makes the music heavy, especially when you watch a band live. So I just love it when the bass is well produced on an album, as it is here. Track 4, the main riff is a little bit like Pagan Fears, and there are also some operatic vocals and some chiming bells. So this album does include some theatrical elements as well. Track 5 has a slow crawl, but very good bass lines, and also some chiming synth lines, which is something Mayhem haven't traditionally done. Like they don't normally do synth, but I like the fact that they're open-minded enough to say when it suits or serves a certain song, they will include that as well. So yeah, track 5 is really good. Track 6 has a heavy marchy rhythm and a doom-laden intro before some fast and blasting riffs. So if you just love the fast Mayhem stuff, there's plenty of that on here too, which is great. Yeah, also some atmospheric moments on this album, like some atmospheric slow riffs on track 6 in the middle. Track 7 has some very memorable riffs. Track 8 is fantastic. It's got some slow, eerie, atmospheric riffs, and it's very haunting. So you see just the sheer variety on this. And then track 9, it's blasting and brilliant, and it's got a groovy and dark main riff, which is very catchy. And track 10 features that typical piercing melodic Norwegian black metal riffing style, and even some timpani or kettle drums. So this album's got it all. It's got fast sections, it's got that Norwegian guitar tone, it's got slow sections, it's got some theatrics, it's got some synths, it's got some orchestral drums, and it's an absolute, what is it? It's a trip. I love this album. Like from beginning to end, it's just a really good listen. So absolutely love this, and so glad that I finally picked it up 7 years later, but better late than never. Hold it a second. Just temporarily, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this light, and in future, if it's rainy, I'll keep it on like this. But yep, there's the cover. Still doesn't show very well with the glare. And then you have this very glossy booklet with all of the lyrics. Cool imagery on this one. And again, I need to spend time with the lyrics. Like I've mentioned before, as I get older, I pay less attention to the lyrics, but I really should, because I think it ties in with the music, especially with black metal. Like it's not just like something as mindless as a love song or, you know, an early Beatles song. No offense to the Beatles. And there's a picture of the band there. So here you go. See, now you see the contrast. I'm not sure which you think is better. Personally, I think with the light on, there's too much glare. But yes, if you're one of those people who is a bit narrow-minded and says, oh, I only listen to the old Mayhem with Dead and or Euronymous, you're missing out if you don't give this one a chance. I think it's really good. I'm yet to pick up the newest album, which I also like. And I'm missing a couple of other albums. I'm missing Esoteric Warfare and Chimera in original format, but I'll pick those up in time. But for now, this will do very nicely. So Mayhem with Daimon, glad to finally have it. All right. Coming up next, this is where we get to the controversial part of the video. Not in a politically incorrect sense, but I know this band sets a lot of people off. So, here we have it, 6 Feet Under with Next to Die. The newest album from 6 Feet Under, which has set the world afire, you know, in terms of people's comments. There's been a lot of discussion about this album. I'll just cut to the chase about this. Like, everyone is aware of the fact 6 Feet Under is the band that a lot of metal fans love to hate. And I'm not really sure why. I think sometimes it's because Chris Barnes is an outspoken person, or a lot of people just think the music is shit. But I completely disagree. I've been following this band since the beginning, and I really like them a lot. I have to say, like, even it's true they have done some albums which are not as good as others, certainly, but this album is total redemption. It's much better than the last two that came out, and they're the ones that people seem to have the most of a problem with. But yes, so if you're not familiar, 6 Feet Under play sort of, they started out playing sort of like groove-laden death metal, but then as some of the original musicians left, they went in more of a technical direction, but I think they've always retained that element of groove, and of course, Chris Barnes being the original vocalist of Cannibal Corpse, the low guttural vocals, but people often complained about his vocals deteriorating over time. But let's just say, let's get straight to this album now. What's my assessment of it? If I just had to say it in a very short sentence, it would be in a nutshell, I love it. I love this album. You know what? In this batch that I bought, no joke, I think it might be my favorite at the moment. Like the other day, I was in a bad mood and I put this on for the first time. I finished this album with a smile on my face. I was just going, I love this. Like, the guitar tone is so good, the riffs are so good, they're incredibly catchy, the drumming is excellent, and to please all the haters, like Chris's vocals have improved a lot. Like they have much more depth again, like darker and more guttural, sort of like going back to, if you're being generous, like the days of The Bleeding or Haunted or Warpath, you know, when his vocal ability was still very strong. Like, so it's not as over the top as Tomb of the Mutilated or something like that, but I just think his vocals are sounding better than ever, and a lot of people speculated, oh, maybe that's because he quit weed, but I'm not sure if marijuana would affect someone's ability to sing vocally. I mean, look at Bob Marley, he smoked a pound of marijuana a week and he had a great voice. But anyway, yes, but the point is Chris's vocals sound excellent on this, and the riffs, it's interesting. Yes, it's not all, a lot of people think 6 Feet Under is all slow plodding groove, but they do have the faster and more technical riffs on this album, and just some really mid-paced, catchy ones, which I love. Like, this whole album, I just love that old school artwork as well, very cool. It's just got a really sort of horror-themed vibe and feeling, like, and that's encapsulated by the artwork, but I don't know if I should like it as much as I do, but I just really love it a lot. Like, it's just absolutely fantastic. Pretty much every song on this is catchy. There are no songs I dislike. Interestingly, what should I do here? I'm just going to get the magnifying glass because I want to talk about these. Okay, it's important here. So, yeah, actually, so the album opens with Approach Your Grave, which is by no means a bad song, but guess what? By default, it's the worst song on the album because the tracks just keep getting better and better after that. Like, yeah, Destroyed Remains is really good. Mr. Blood and Guts, at first I thought, you know, those lyrics sound so silly and primitive. It's sort of like the death metal equivalent of a ghost train ride. But guess what? The groove in that song is catchy, so it just proves that even when lyrics are cheesy, the song can still be enjoyable, so I absolutely love that. Oh, Mutilated Corpse in the Woods and Unmistakable Smell of Death, they were the two singles. Very catchy riffs in that, and like you just can't help tapping along. I really love both of those songs. Like I remember, lyrics are not so important, but yeah, for Unmistakable Smell of Death, I thought the lyrics were a bit cheesy, to be honest. But again, it doesn't matter. It's all about the vocal delivery and everything. If the music sounds good and the vocals sound good, that's all that matters to me. So they're two of my favorite tracks right there. So Mutilated Corpse in the Woods and Unmistakable Smell of Death. And then they have Death and Terror Takes Command. Now, interesting, that's a good song, but like, sorry, Death and Terror Takes Command, that's grammatically incorrect because Death and Terror, it's a plural subject of the sentence, two nouns there, so it should be Death and Terror Take Command rather than Takes Command. Sorry, once an English teacher, always an English teacher, but I'll stop being a fucking smartass. That is a very good song as well. So what do we have after that? Skin Coffins is good. Mind Hell is probably my favorite song on the album just because the riff is so circular and catchy. It sticks in your head, it's got a lot of groove, just like the other ones like Naked and Dismembered. And yeah, even the, like, Next to Die is good. every track on this is absolutely really good. Death from Beyond, and what's the what like Ill Visions? A lot of people complained about that because it's sort of like an atmospheric instrumental with some spoken words, but I think it's a really good eerie closer to the album. So yes, I'm not sure if I should like this as much as I do, but when I say that, it's because I've just heard so many people bitch and complain about this album, but I don't understand why. I will say this, my least favorite 6 Feet Under album is Nightmares of the Decomposed, and I even liked that one. I know most people don't, but then I heard Killing for Revenge, the one that came out after that, and I couldn't stand that album. I thought the vocals were produced terribly, no offense. So like, even though I don't mind those albums, even I didn't like them much. So Nightmares of the Decomposed and Killing for Revenge. But if you're one of those people and thought, oh, those albums sucked, give this album a chance because it's an awesome comeback, in my opinion. Like, I know a lot of people out there, including friends of mine or people I know, really still dislike this album, but I beg to differ. I think it's fantastic. It's just like a fun, catchy, groovy album of old school death metal. By the way, the drumming is awesome. You know, they have those fills like, and like it just, oh, it's just an eargasm, you know, to listen to that before it goes kicked back into the groovy rhythms. So yeah, I really like every aspect. And oh, let's talk about this. So yeah, Chris Barnes on vocals, of course. Jack Owen, formerly of Cannibal Corpse and later DEICIDE, on rhythm guitar. Ray Sui on lead guitar. And oh, that's something I forgot to mention. The guitar leads on this are brilliant as well, like very old school. So if you just like that old school, early 90s, simplistic death metal style, you're gonna love it. Jeff Hewell on bass, and the bass is very well produced on this. You can actually hear this. That's another great thing. Chris Barnes has always placed a lot of importance on bass, and like I said, that's really good because it makes the music so much darker and heavier. And then the guy who's been a drummer for a long time for this band, Marco Petrozello, I think, yeah, but his drumming is very good because unlike Greg Gall, the original drummer, he's faster and a lot more technical, and as I said, he does these brilliant fills, so absolutely fantastic. All right, so just showing you the booklet, so all of the lyrics. Yep, so just lyrics in red on this black booklet. Sorry about the light. But like I said, tell me what you think in the comments on dark, overcast days like this. Should I have the light on or not? You've seen both. Metal Blade sticker there. Yeah. So, give this album a chance. Stop being too serious, stop being too critical. Just give it a chance and see what you think. But personally speaking, I loved it. So 6 Feet Under, Next to Die. All right, and last but certainly not least, very happy to have picked this up as well. This fucking Slayer, as they say. So this is the debut album, Show No Mercy. You might have heard me say, I made a video recently talking about bands I like more and more as I get older. So Slayer are one such band. I've always liked them, but it's funny, in the 90s I was more into extreme metal, and my younger brother, he didn't like extreme metal. He preferred thrash metal, so he was a fan of Slayer, like the kind of 90s albums. So that was my introduction. I always thought they were pretty good, but as the years have gone on, I've got into them more and more, but I actually think their early albums are the best. So this is their debut, and I absolutely love it. I rate this one. A lot of people say it's sort of like primitive and dodgy, but I just think it's fucking excellent. You know, believe it or not, when I first heard Slayer as a teenager, they didn't grab me at first because I didn't like the vocals, or I thought they were too shouty and not melodic enough. Like, because at the time I liked Metallica and Megadeth, but how wrong was I? Now I realize Tom Araya's voice, it's iconic, it's original, and I love it. It's very raw on this album, but oh, this is just brilliant. Like, very raw, primitive thrash metal mixed with heavy metal. So it's not pure like like chugging, you know, like as much as Metallica and Megadeth. There are still elements of heavy metal, but just with those power chords and those more melodic moments, it sounds awesome. But it's like a crossover between thrash metal and heavy metal. I absolutely love it, and just like so many of these songs are just so anthemic and so catchy. Like, so you know them all, of course, but like some of my favorites. Evil Has No Boundaries, fantastic. The Antichrist, Die by the Sword. Like, those first 3 tracks are all brilliant. Not that the other ones aren't. Some other favorites of mine are Black Magic. That's probably my favorite Slayer song of all time. Also, I really like Tormentor. And yeah, this morning when I was listening to this again, like the Final Command and Cryonics. But like every song on this is absolutely fantastic. So So happy to have picked up this iconic album. Now, just showing you this, I love this cover artwork, how it's completely black. And again, a lot of people saw this as primitive and cheesy. I just think it's so iconic, so I love it. Just like the Mystifier album cover, Wicker. It's very primitive, maybe some would say cheesy, but I think it's iconic. Cool, so got all of the lyrics here. And old photos of the band. And here, it's interesting, you see the band, some of them kind of wearing makeup like pseudo corpse paint. Of course, Slayer was an influence on black metal in an indirect way, but the original classic lineup, so Tom Araya, Kerry King, Jeff Hanneman, and Dave Lombardo on the drums there. Yeah, awesome stuff. Everyone knows this album, that's why I haven't said much about it. You know, I pretty much just mentioned song titles and the overall musical style, but from beginning to end, this album is just a riot, so I absolutely love it. And I think it's only going to grow on me more and more. Like, my favorite songs were the majority, but even those other ones I really like too, so yeah, can't wait to get into this album more. Of course, I had heard it before, but you know, when you own something, you invest in it more. A lot of people say their favorite Slayer albums are, you know, ones like Rain in Blood and South of Heaven. Like, Rain in Blood is an absolute bona fide thrash metal classic, no denying that, and I love it. South of Heaven is one I didn't get into as much, but there are some great songs on it. But for me, this is where it's at, that really raw, early stuff. I think that's my favorite era of Slayer. So in addition to this one, I'd like to get Hell Awaits, because that follows that raw, thrashy style, you know, combined with heavy metal. So, but like I said, I'd like to slowly pick up all Slayer albums eventually, because I like them all, but this happens to be my favorite era, the early stuff, and I'm so happy to finally have this debut album, Slayer with Show No Mercy. All right, that's it for today, guys. So how many albums did I go through? 5. Oh fuck, I've gone on, like, I thought maybe this would be 25, 30 minutes, but like I said, when I get enthusiastic about the music, I can't help but ramble on, so I hope you don't mind. But yeah, a lot of these bands are obviously well known, they're all big names, but you know, for me, a lot of them I was hearing for the first time, especially the newer ones like Ashbourne by Enthroned and Next to Die by 6 Feet Under. But I have to say, I'm really happy with all of these pickups. There's not one I'm disappointed with. Even the Enthroned one, that's going to be a challenge, but I look forward to listening to it more. So there you go. Let me know what you think of these albums, and let me know what you think of my opinions on them. I'm always interested to hear. So keep it civil, but let's get some discussion going in the comments. And that's all for now. Like, I think I've taken up enough of your time. Of course, I have plenty more ideas for future videos, so they're in the making. So I will see you in the next one. Thanks for your support. Take it easy. Cheers. Bye.